RWBY Volume 4, Episode 7, Punished. This was definitely a great holiday episode, of course, with it being around the holidays. I had to see it today, actually, because I couldn't get to watch it yesterday for Christmas, because it was Christmas, and I couldn't watch it Saturday because I'm not a first member, so I was like, man, I don't know if I'll be able to see this in time. I didn't think I'd even be able to watch it today, honestly, just because of how things are. But it was a fun episode. It wasn't as much action as I thought, because I thought for sure with the way Tyrian was as a character and how just scary the whole situation seemed, I thought it would be a really big action episode with a crazy ending, and it kind of had that a little bit. They didn't do the full death, which is kind of what I thought they were doing. I'm like, oh, they had the moment where it's like they look at each other after Qrow saved RWBY and they smile. I'm like, oh, he's about to get hit. And of course, when they first did the sound effect, I thought he was just straight up stabbed, but he just gets cut, which of course will still have an important impact, because after RWBY slices off the stinger, we see that there's like purple acid that drops on the ground and like scorches the ground a little bit. I'm like, they didn't notice that in the split second that it happened, and Qrow's like, oh, he wounded me, because of course naturally, based on this series, most people don't actually get cut that often because of their aura. It's their force field basically. So it was very interesting. It's like, anyone takes an actual hit, it's like, holy crap, I'm legitimately wounded, and it was like just a scratch. But of course, him being poisoned is going to come into play. It wasn't as fast acting as I thought. I thought him, like when they did it where he dropped to the ground, I thought it was going to be automatic. Like, okay, he's like I would expect from Venom. Um, he's already feeling the effects of it, but it didn't actually end up happening. So I was really surprised by that. I was surprised that was how it played out. So they're kind of saving it where the characters don't realize what happened, but we as the audience do. So we kind of just have to wait to see how long that lasts. And I don't know if they'll kill Qrow. I still don't think that they're going to do that, even though it's poison. I think it'll just be kind of a catalyst for, like the next step for our team, because they couldn't even join in on this fight, and RWBY eventually does at the very end. But I think it's just going to be another big catalyst for them to do something else, and maybe it'll be a big catalyst for RWBY to possibly head back home and get her father and Yang, and then that might somehow lead to them, getting together with Blake and Weiss as well. But I feel like that's where they're going with that, is that, him being wounded is going to end up being a catalyst. I doubt that'll bring Raven back, but maybe. It's hard to tell what her deal is. Like, she's a bit of an enigma at this point. I don't think she really cares about any of them, but maybe she does a little bit, because of the one time she saved Yang, which is still really weird, because it was like you only get one save, and it's like that makes no sense, but she still did it, and so it's hard to tell with her. But I feel like they're going to use his injury, in a couple episodes as a catalyst for like the next jumping off point. So we still have to wait and see where that's headed. Of course, jumping back to the beginning of this episode, we get Oscar again, and we still don't really know what's going on with him, but we get a little bit of dialogue in this episode, not just in his part, but kind of throughout this episode, where it's like this may or may not be how things play out. So we have Ozpin saying that this happened to him. He was like, I wasn't exactly all for this, when it first happened to me either. And it's like, okay, something's going on here, because Ozpin went through this as well, and maybe that explains why he's so powerful, in a sense. Obviously we have other characters who are really powerful as well, but we did see Ozpin actually fight someone who had Amazing's ability, so like maybe that's a part of it, where people having their auras and their souls combined allows them to be twice as powerful, and that just makes a lot of sense as far as I'm concerned. But a lot of people theorize that this was actually taking place in the past, and based on this episode, I don't think that's the case. And it still could be the case, but once again, it's within the dialogue, because Ozpin, when he's talking to Oscar, and he's like, can you remember I think it was like, remember the office at Haven for the principal, or I can't think of the actual title for the characters, but of course, Oscar remembers everything, and Ozpin is like, it's because I helped build that room, and that's who's the leader at Haven right now. And he specifically said, like, right now. So I would assume that they wouldn't do that unless they were doing it on purpose to trick us. I would assume they wouldn't have him say that unless it really was current time. So I feel like that's the case, although it's still kind of up in the air. That could have easily been a little trick where he's like, that's who he is right now. And for Ozpin, now is still what we see as the present, but he could still consciously be in the past. So it's kind of true. It's technically possible that that could be him in the past, but I'm starting to doubt it based on the dialogue from this episode. I think he really is just in someone else's body, and we still don't have any sort of explanation for that. Maybe that's a part of Ozpin's semblance, or maybe there's something akin to, you know, the Four Maidens or whatever's going on with RWBY, because those are two really huge things that we still don't have a lot of information on. Well, the Four Maidens we actually do, but you know, RWBY and her bloodline, that's a crazy superpower, so maybe Ozpin is a part of a different bloodline with a, you know, crazy ability as well. So there's something going on there. But I thought that was cool. I was like, alright, we have tiniest bit of information. It's happened to Ozpin before. And it seems to be the same situation over and over again. Like, the only time that someone in Ozpin's situation ends up, you know, combining their soul with someone else is during a dire situation, because he made it seem like he's doing the exact same thing that happened to him, to Oscar, where it's like, yeah, I went through the same thing too, and I didn't want to get involved, but I did. And it's like, was that because there was some other huge thing that happened in the past as well, or did it just happen to be, you know, for him, he's, you know, in this time of peace, and it's just like, yeah, I'm in your head now, or something like that. So he kind of made it seem, based on the dialogue, that when it happened to him, it was the same sort of situation where it's like, hey, you have to do this because for whatever reason you were chosen, or, you know, it's all up in the air, so it's hard to say how these different characters are chosen. But I don't believe that it's him in the past. Like I said, it still could be, because they could have easily thrown in now just to kind of throw people off like me, where it's like, okay, that means that it's still current. They are definitely, you know, in the present, but they didn't reference anything where it's like, oh, I heard that this happened and I don't want to deal with this. It was just like, have you been to Haven? And that was really it. So still kind of vague, still up in the air with that. Then of course we go to Weiss, and that was nuts. It was pretty crazy, and I knew we were gonna get this in this episode, but them talking about Jacques and how he wasn't a part of the family and stuff like that was pretty cool, because that is, of course, what they talked about in the last World of Remnant episode, and they've been doing a perfect job blending the episodes together as far as the main series and then the World of Remnant episodes. So, of course, I knew, once they mentioned it, I'm like, there's going to be some reference to that or something. And as soon as he was like, you know, I have to uphold the family name or something like that, or you were like dragging the name through the mud or whatever, I was like, okay, this is definitely gonna come up. Like, it has to come up right here that that's not even his family name. And of course, that's the first thing Weiss says. And he slaps her in the face. Not only did he slap her in the face, which I already hated him anyway from other episodes, but he did that. Also, he threw in, I think this is that was the second time that we ever heard anyone swear on the show. And then, of course, we hear of, you know, not even just damn, by the end of the episode, we actually hear a much bigger word that, I mean, it's not that big of a deal because people can say it on TV now, but I was like, alright, they're, you know, pushing the language. Although, when Tyrian swore, I was like, yeah, that's kind of the perfect line right there. Like, it's kind of typical, but that's the only word I would expect. Is like, she just cut off my tail. Like, I would expect him to say that, but, you know, I'm excited for where they're going with Weiss, because this was the episode where she kind of got pushed out. Once again, through the dialogue, they mentioned some stuff that maybe they mentioned before and I just forgot, but her dad mentions Winter taking off, and I was like, okay, I don't remember that ever being an issue in the past. Like, I always thought she was, you know, the dutiful daughter, and I always thought that she was supposed to take over as the oldest child. I thought she was going to take over as heiress, and then, excuse me, they mentioned that, you know, Weiss is the heiress and stuff, and I was like, I don't think I really remember that. And I believe they do mention that she's an heiress, but I guess in my mind it was just like, she's one of the kids, so she could be like the heiress, but it just never occurred to me, so I guess they have mentioned that. But I always thought that it would just be Winter, and then it seemed like her running off is a big issue all of a sudden, and I'm like, I feel like, once again, from previous volumes, that was never something that was actually a problem before. Her being with Ironwood, I always thought, oh, she decided to join their military, that's kind of their big thing, and that's how she continues on the dutiful nature of the Schnee family. And now it seems like, you know, she's taken off, and I would assume that that's not going off to join Ironwood. I feel like there's something in between that we missed, and I could be wrong. It could just be, you know, her dad was talking about Winter going off to basically be in the army, but it seemed like it was more than that, because he's super close with Ironwood. Ironwood was at, you know, at the party in the other episode and stuff like that. So it's kind of weird. It's like, okay, I didn't expect him to say that stuff like, oh, you're choosing her side and she took off and things like that. So I'm assuming that this is new content. So they kind of introduced it like, hey, she's gone. That's why we haven't seen her, because I always thought that was weird that they wouldn't, show Winter in their house or anything, especially considering we saw Ironwood twice now, and, they're at the party and everything. Why wouldn't Winter be there? Especially if Ironwood's there, if he's, basically the commander and everything, why would he take off and leave her in charge? Why wouldn't they both just be able to go if it's just, let's have a stupid little fundraiser party, that sort of thing. So I'm assuming that this was more than just, oh, she went off to join the army. I think she's gone. She might be in a totally different, on a totally different continent at this point. But I thought that was pretty cool. And of course, Weiss being revoked of her, heiressness, I don't know, I said that word, but her having her power taken away from her, I thought was a very interesting turning point. And of course, that takes things all the way down to her brother, Whitley. And I don't know what the deal is with him. I thought he was cool in that first episode. He seemed nice, and even Weiss mentioned it in that first episode when he appeared. It's like, you're never nice to me. Like, you don't like me or Winter. And he said something in that episode like, yeah, but you're back home or something like that, and that's why he was being nice. But then he's like, he doesn't deny the fact that he kind of wanted everything that just played out. So don't know what's going on with him, but he's clearly falling in line with his father, where either he enjoys taking the orders and he wants things to be exactly like his dad has them, or his dad has really effed him up, and that's just why he does everything he's told. Maybe he's too young and he didn't have, the experience that Winter and Weiss had, where they got to go off or, really choose what they did. And he's seen two people go off and he's kind of just been trapped with his father. So maybe his dad kind of brainwashed him or something, who knows. But at this point, I don't really like either of the guys. So, they both suck, but we have to see where it goes. I'm hoping that it really picks up in the next episode and we don't have too much Weiss training, because of course this was the start. She picks up her weapon again, which is really cool. So I'm hoping that it doesn't take too long before we get to see Weiss just, do, I've mentioned this a million times, but the opening sequence where she summons the whole night and everything, I'm hoping that, I doubt it'll be the very next episode, but I'd love it if it was, within the next 2 episodes and it didn't happen like by the finale or something. I'm hoping that it's just, here it is, it happens really fast, and then we just move on to the next part of the story, which is her escaping. So that's what I'm looking forward to. I thought that was great. Of course, the battle itself was really awesome. The animation was good. They're flying all over the place. Qrow was super awesome. Even when he was getting beat up, oddly enough, my favorite move that he did was after Tyrian kicked him out of the building. And as he's spinning, he throws the sword and it lands in the ground so that he can basically land on the sword instead of rolling to the other side of the I don't even know, it's not a court, but rolling to another to a wall or something. So that was really awesome. He just got knocked out of the building and he's flipping in midair and he throws the sword so that he can stop himself. And I was like, that was really awesome. So love that. I think we got a glimpse either at, I don't know, Tyrion's semblance or whatever his deal is. Maybe it's just his general skill, I don't know. But I feel like it was his semblance, because he has this really odd, he's almost clairvoyant when it comes to fighting. It was very awkward to watch that, because he's, not even facing people at certain points. They did that twice in this episode too, where he was fighting against Qrow, and it's when Nora and Ren go up to him, and they're behind him, or at least to the side of him, and he's able to perfectly, take both of them out. And then when RWBY decides that she'll try to shoot him from up top, Qrow, he doesn't have his blade anymore, and then he's just, Tyrion's just standing there. He sees the first bullet, and then he's just smiling. He's not even remotely looking in her direction. It's like, how in the world does he know what's happening? So I feel like somehow his semblance involves dust, because considering every weapon uses dust, I feel like he can almost sense exactly where everything that's infused with dust is. And that's why he wasn't able to dodge Qrow when he was just like, okay. And he just punched him straight in the face. And he stood there. He let Qrow just walk right past him. And it's like, I don't know what he's going to do. He could dodge me, and I would not be able to read where his body is. And I feel like it's almost like an actual, bug or something, where bugs have almost a radar type sense. Scorpions, I don't believe, have this, because they've got their eyes, like spiders. But I just thought that was interesting. It's almost like he can sense basically the exact outline of anything that's touching dust, because he could sense where all the bullets were coming from. Everybody's weapon, it's almost like if they're touching the weapon, he gets like a visual, almost like a mental outline of not only the entire weapon, but their entire bodies. Like for anyone who may have watched Avatar, is the best example I can give is Toph, where she was technically blind, but she could see literally every single movement for like an insane distance. And I feel like that's what he has, except it's specific to dust. So if someone is, like Qrow, where he just had his fist, he didn't know what to do. Like, he punched him straight in the face, and then he punched him, and he kind of freaked out. He was about to do something, and then Qrow just, like, kicked him straight in the stomach. And all he could do was wait for him to go get his weapon. And as soon as he grabbed it, he smiled again. It's like, all right, now I can see exactly what moves you're about to do. And, or at least really close to it. Like, of course, he couldn't do it enough to actually hit anybody that hit him the entire time. They were still trading blows. But it made it a million times easier for him. And plus, that was Qrow, so he was like at a totally different level than anyone else. But I feel like that's what his semblance is, where he can just sense the exact outline and path and all that stuff of dust. And anything that's connected to that dust, even if it's just physically based, he gets a full outline of exactly where everything's going to be. Because that's the only answer I have. Like, there's no other reason. I've never seen anything with scorpions where it's like, for whatever reason, they have this random weakness where they can't sense something. So I feel like that's what it was. It's something that he can sense dust, and that's why he was able to dodge the bullets and stuff like that. So that's my guess. I would love to know your theories on that, but either way, it was an amazing fight scene. I love the song as well. We haven't heard that song before, and sadly they didn't play it again. I was hoping that the song that played during the second half of the fight was going to replay during the end of the episode, and they actually just did an instrumental song, and I think it was a totally different song as well. But I like that song. I thought it was pretty cool. I couldn't hear too much of the dialogue because it was like them flying through the building and stuff. But I like that song. I thought it sounded really good, and some of the vocals that I could hear, I was like, okay, I like this, and it of course, as usual, it ties into what's happening. But I'm excited to hear the full version of that song. I'm still waiting for the song that we're going to get for Weiss, the one that she was actually singing. And they once again played, and like I said, I wish I could remember the name of it, but it's the song where it's like, give up your wish and stuff like that. Big things aren't for you, that song. So I love that they keep playing that for Weiss, and she's kind of, breaking free from that to do her own thing. So I'm excited to see where they take everything, of course. And I'm really looking forward to this next episode. I don't know if we're going to stick to what we've had in these past two episodes, which has kind of been like, here's the crazy, scary action portion, here's Weiss's portion, and then in this episode they added Oscar. So I don't know if they'll stick to that, but I would like to see them at least stick to Weiss. I'd like to see what she gets. Mostly because I feel like even if she doesn't show up at all in the next episode, it just means that we're going to get another episode where we have to wait to see her finally break free. So I kind of want them to focus on her, and then of course, now that we've had the big action sequence, maybe focus a little bit on where the team's going to go with Qrow and how they're going to help him, and when everyone's going to realize that he is sick. And of course, we haven't seen Blake or Yang, so definitely want to see more of them and what Yang's up to for sure. Because I feel like she's gotten the least real development. Like, we've had a little bit where she's decided to train, but that's it. With Blake, we've had her go home. We got, a menagerie. We got, the creepy monk brothers and stuff like that, and a lot of information came from her going back home. And as far as Yang, we just haven't had a lot from her. Like, she's trapped at home in a different way than Weiss is, and we just haven't really gotten enough of that. And I know it's probably because they don't have too much on it. It's an internal struggle, so maybe that's why we don't see her as much. But I'm hoping that that's the focus that we end up getting back to. But this is definitely a fun episode. Definitely a great, dramatic Christmas episode. Not exactly happy in the holiday spirits. It was definitely like the opposite of be happy and enjoy your family and stuff. It was like, nope, your dad slaps you in the face. Your uncle almost got killed, and now he is poisoned. So we'll see where that goes. But I definitely love this one, of course. Would love to know what you guys thought about it. So please comment below. Let me know your favorite parts, your least favorite parts. And of course, we have Weiss breaking free at some point. And of course, we have Qrow, who will eventually succumb to this poison. Probably not succumb to it totally to the point where he dies. But I want to know what you think the next big steps are for them. Because with Weiss, even though we know she's going to break out, what's going to be the first part of that? Like, is she going to confront her father again and fight him? Because I feel like that would be something really awesome if she just was like, hey, let's fight. Like, this is how this is pretty much going to be handled. If I win, I'm out of here. And even if she loses, she might lie. But, you know, if I lose, I'll stay. Something like that. Or is she just going to break out? As far as the Qrow thing, like I said, I feel like, personally, I feel like it's just a catalyst for kind of the next jumping off point for what's going to happen. But I would love to know your predictions on that. And also the Oscar thing, because it's still really up in the air. Would love to know your predictions on that. And, of course, what you guys thought about the episode in general. So please comment below, let me know. And thanks for watching.